Hello everyone, this is Ziggy Pixter here. So the purpose of today's video is to take you through a clean install of the Axe Armor mod, also known as the Mayhem mod, depending on what version of it you're using. We're going to focus on a very basic start to finish. We'll talk about what you might need to do for updates towards the end. And for now, just follow along. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, I have a link to the GitHub site, which is the repository, which just contains the latest version of the code. So I already have the page open here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is once I've landed here, still pretty much a work in progress. We'll ignore anything below this point. But essentially, it'll give some basic information, a little bit about the patch, some shoutouts, things like that. However, from the standpoint of an install, the only thing you're interested in is this little section called releases. Now, by default, if you click on this, you'll see the word latest right at the end there. If you click on it, in this case, it happens to be 1.1.3. You'll be taken immediately to the page that you need to go. Now, if you end up following a different link and you end up on the /releases page, the same thing can be applied. You can actually find the experimental patches here if you're looking to become a tester. Otherwise, more often than not, it should just default you to the latest release. So for now, we're just going to click on the latest release, whether you got to it from the other screen or from the releases section. And unfortunately for this patch, there's a lot of patch notes. I do like to be rather detailed in my notes for people that are looking to kind of dive into the numbers. So we're going to scroll all the way down. You don't need to read basically any of it to get started. Most of that is just for the testers. So do not worry about it at all. The only thing you have to worry about as a first-time user is this little zip folder that is labeled external tools hyphen and then the patch number. So in my case, 1.1.3 is the latest version at the time of the recording. So 1.1.3 is the name of the zip that I should have. So I'm going to just left click on it. You're going to need something like a 7-zip or a WinZip in order to extract the zip file. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded it. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for now. And we're going to take a look together at the file structure. So this is assuming you already have a working Bizhawk. If you do not have a working Bizhawk that is capable of running Symphony of the Night, this is not going to be the video for you. This assumes that you've at least been able to run the game once. So I will try to leave links in the description below for other videos that I recommend to follow those processes, but this is not the video for that. So we're going to assume you have a Bizhawk set up. My recommendation, we're going to go ahead and hide the browser here, is that you have at least Bizhawk 2.8 as of the time of this recording. Obviously, the more recent should generally be better, but may or may not always be compatible. Always feel free to either ask me directly on a stream or in my Discord if this information has changed. I'll try to update the video at least with a pinned comment if this happens to change, or even redo the video where applicable. But in any case, you should have a Bizhawk folder. And what I want you to go ahead and do for a fresh install is you may have the DLL, you may have the firmware, you will probably not have something called external tools. So you need to just create a new folder, call it external tools. That zip folder that you saw earlier, I just want you to drag and drop it into here because it's easier to do so. Go ahead and unzip the zip file. It should generate a folder called Soten Rando Tools and a file called sotenrandotools.dll. Now, I will make a small aside. If you already have a folder called external tools, let's say you're running another mod, you got it from something like Soten.io or something like that, they are generally not compatible with each other. So if you're going to go ahead and go forward with this approach, I would either make multiple copies of Bizhawk, or I would just start with the clean install. Now, what I would also recommend, if you're looking to do a lot of test builds, because in particular we have a lot of pre-releases that are sent with this, I would recommend just cleaning out the folder in its entirety and starting over. However, I will make a small aside here, and I'm only going to say this once, so pay attention. So if you were to go into the Soten Rando Tools, there is one file I need to be cleaned out more or less every time we release a patch, and it's called toolconfig.ini. Now this just basically contains all of your settings. It's very similar to basically full wiping every time you do a patch. But if you happen to do the application/mods automatic update, it may or may not correctly update the tool config. So if you see any issues, before you report it, before you like tear your hair out going crazy, just delete this. 99 times out of 10, it's a tool config issue and everything should be resolved. So I'm just going to leave that there. It's not relevant to the people doing the fresh install, but for people looking to reinstall or for people that have existing Bizhawks, this is kind of important to know. So I'm just going to put that there. So we've basically extracted the files. I've done basically nothing. And what I would like you to do, if you're in a fresh install, you need to go ahead and launch Bizhawk. So we're going to go and do so now. So I basically just open up the windows of my Bizhawk. So you can see I'm on the title screen of the game itself. So I've already launched it. Now, one thing I'm going to need you to do, make sure that things are working correctly. In fact, I have an image overlay because unfortunately, sometimes this doesn't show up properly when I go to demo this. Is along the top, there should be a series of menu options. I want you to click on Tools. And because you made that external Tools folder, it's going to generate an option under Tool. So under Tools, External Tool, you'll see something called Symphony of the Night Randomizer Tools. So I'm going to leave that on the screen for a few seconds because I want to make sure that you find it and you're able to click it and do whatever you need. So once you click on that, you'll notice on the right side of my screen, I have something called the About Mayhem. It has my name. It has the version number, which will also tell you if you're out of date with either a check mark or the X. And it'll give you some basic information if you want to learn more about the overall application and not just the axe armor itself. But we're going to try to stay focused on just the axe armor. So once you've launched that, I'm going to go ahead and hide this as I no longer have a purpose for it. You'll see buttons along the top. Now, the exact look and feel and the exact title will change, but their position, generally speaking, will not change, even if I do future updates. So for now, tentatively, there is a button that says Chaos. So I want you to go ahead and click on this one. This button will launch a Mayhem settings menu. This is for both the automated Mayhem settings. This is for Mayhem Twitch integration and also just for solo axe armor. So your options may or may not be the same as mine. So what I want you to go ahead and do is if you click on the quick settings, the names may vary a little tiny bit. It will probably start you on custom more often than not, especially if you're in a fresh install. So let's say you came in, this is what you're more or less seeing probably. Just want you to go ahead and just click on it, arrow down, or directly click on where it says Axe Armor. Now, if you want to start the particular run with Cubazoe on, since sub-weapons are pretty strong, and or you just want to get a feel for the game, and or that's just what you agreed to, let's say you're racing it with a friend or something, I just recommend choosing Axe Armor items. There's not going to be a lot of differences between the two, both pretty similar. I would say pick whatever you feel. I will just go from a very high-level standpoint that both of these will buff the Axe Armor so that it's solo play enabled. It will ensure that you cannot unequip the Axe Armor. It will put in some safety checks to make sure that some things that are considered relics, like Spikebreaker, cannot be removed. And it'll also give you gameplay tips as you go along, which I highly recommend. Even if you played it before or have seen it played before by other streamers, it always helps to have a reminder. So once you do that, I want you to click Save. So now from the standpoint of all the settings, you're actually done. You don't have to do anything else. You are set up to do a run. So how do you start a run? So setting the settings is not quite enough. So what we're going to go ahead and do is you might have noticed a new button called Launch is underneath what is currently the Chaos button, or the second button after the tracker. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Okay, so I basically have just clicked Launch, and a new window has popped up. So you'll see a whole lot of buttons. It might be kind of confusing to you. I will say at the moment, in this particular version, it doesn't distinguish between the Twitch integration and Axe Armor. If this changes, I will just make a small note, as I said before, in the video below, so just verify that. But from the standpoint of the latest version, you'll see an option called Connect to Bot. Now, what I want you to do is click on it. It'll change colors. It'll say disconnect the bot. You do not need to set up the bot. Do not worry about it at all. That's only applicable for the Twitch streamers. However, it does enable everything else that allows the Axe Armor to run. So I'm going to draw your attention to two different places at once. So if you look at the right, I'm hovering on the start button. However, on the left-hand side, which I want you to now look at as I click on the right button, you'll see a confirmation that something has happened. So it'll say Mayhem has started. And if you have Twitch integration, it should also say the bot has started. But since you're probably playing solo, or maybe you're just testing things, That's it. That's all you need to run it. So I'll just show you an example. I'll just very briefly go into a game to show you the behavior. But you don't have to do anything else. Everything should be running. So we're going to leave it a little quiet for now. But if I were to load into, let's say, a new game, and we were to go ahead and play as Richter, more often than not, Richter's color will be changed. That'll be a key identifier that something has happened. Let's go ahead and do that. So you can see I'm Red Richter. So if you're starting a new run, that's a good sign. If you are a color other than the vanilla Richter, you are probably good to go. Now, what this will do is if you were to load up any other save file, like let's say, just pick an existing save file, it will automatically put your current armor to axe armor, and you could continue whatever save file you have as the boosted axe armor. So doesn't matter if you're starting a new game. There's two ways you could basically do it. I'm not going to showcase the starting with the axe armor. We'll be seeing a whole lot of that in the other videos, but hopefully that'll give you the general idea. So before I end the video, I want to give a special shout out / thanks to God666Child, who originally asked for a buffed axe armor, and since then it has evolved into quite an extensive project. So special shout outs to him. He's also helped a little bit with some of the coding when it comes to some of the axe armor colorization changes and figuring out some of the hex values needed to make all of this possible. I want to give a special shout out as well to Chrysogrim as well as the Calvatium, both of which are excellent streamers and have helped a whole ton with the testing and some of the rebalancing needed both for the standard axe armor play and to make it more compatible for mods. So highly recommend you check out those streamers.